With Garrett Nussmeier as an early Heisman Trophy favorite, the LSU Tigers have a lot to look forward to in 2025 and are one of the most hyped up teams during this offseason. However, they have a very difficult start to the season with a road trip to Clemson. This is going to be a really good game to open up the year, and we've just learned recently it will be in prime time. Shocker to absolutely nobody. This is going to be a great game between two Heisman frontrunners in Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik. Really could go either way, but we are going to give it to Clemson because of the home field advantage. That's really just how even these teams are, though. I think if you really get into the weeds of it, Clemson has a little bit more talent, especially on the defensive line. I think they maybe get to Garrett Nussmeier just a little bit more, and that makes the difference in the game.
Yeah, especially with the departure of Will Campbell to the NFL draft. Granted, LSU is going to have plenty of recruits or guys to step in to fill that spot, but considering he was arguably the best offensive tackle in college football last year, that is going to be huge shoes to fill, and having to replace that in your first game against two of the best defensive linemen in college football is not going to be very easy. So Clemson's going to get a very big win over LSU early on in the season. Thankfully, LSU has Louisiana Tech the following week at home, so getting into the win column in week two. Then they go against Florida. It's going to be at Death Valley, so they have that going for them. It's going to be a matchup with yet another Heisman contender, this time being DJ Lagway, who is going to be in his sophomore season, hopefully staying healthy to really compete for that Heisman Trophy. And this game could really go either way. We're really high on this Florida team, and it might be a bit of a stretch to say that Florida is better, especially early on in the season on the road. But I really like DJ Lagway. I think he can compete with anyone in the SEC. We saw last year him able to compete with Carson Beck and that Georgia team. But I do think with it being at Death Valley, with the offensive weapons that Garen Nussmeier has at his disposal, and with a defense that is really starting to take shape and get some real hype, I think LSU is going to be able to get the job done in week three. And this is going to be a signature win after that early loss against Clemson and gets them started in SEC play at 1-0.
Yeah, this is really a must win for the Tigers after dropping that game on the road to Clemson. If they lose this and drop to 1-2, your only two wins being Louisiana Tech and Southeast Louisiana, who they definitely will beat the week after, is really not looking good for the Tigers trying to make a playoff push with a lot of these other teams that are so difficult to play against on their schedule still. So I do think that is really going to come down to the wire, but the Tigers just need it more and they will get that win over Florida. Briefly mentioned Southeast Louisiana, and that's really all they deserve. That's going to be an easy win. Moving on to their week five matchup on the road at Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss is a pretty interesting team in 2025. They're losing Jackson Dart, a 4-year starter, and replacing him with Austin Simmons, who has a ton of hype surrounding him. He is 19 years old and already graduated college, heading into his freshman season with his bachelor's degree. He's an incredibly impressive young man, and he has a ton of talent. It's just going to be very raw talent. And even though Ole Miss has the home field advantage here, we do think that LSU is going to be able to pull this one out. You have the senior quarterback, more experience. I think Austin Simmons is going to be very good for Ole Miss, but they might take a little bit of a dip in his first year as far as the win totals that we've been seeing from the Rebels. Not to say they'll miss a bowl game or anything, but I do think that they'll maybe take a little step back, and that's going to include a loss to LSU here.
After that Ole Miss game, they have a bye week, and they're gonna need that bye week to rest and reset before they take on the South Carolina Gamecocks at Death Valley. Lenore Sellers, once again, Heisman candidate at the quarterback position after a very impressive year last season, was essentially one game away from making the college football playoffs. Had a pretty good argument to make it, but just fell short. And I think this year, South Carolina finds themselves in a very good spot to truly make the college football playoffs. Their defensive line and the pressure they were able to generate was one of the best last season. They did lose a couple of those players to the NFL draft, but if they're able to replicate that, the South Carolina defense is going to be very, very successful. Is going to be successful against Garrett Nussmeier and this LSU offense that is returning Caden Durham, a freshman running back from last season, along with Aaron Anderson at the wide receiver position? I don't know. I think it's really a coin toss, especially after South Carolina lost in honestly controversial fashion last year. Should have had that pick six to win the game. But I think LSU is going to be able to truly beat South Carolina this season and move to 5-1.
I think it's going to be a really good game because South Carolina, like Connor just said, is really going to want revenge because, to be honest, that LSU loss is what cost them their college football playoff berth. This is a really, really good team in 2025, but the home field advantage and Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback, just a little bit better than Lenora Sellers, in my opinion, should get the Tigers the win. Back on the road, this time going to Vandy, who we saw beat Alabama last season. The Commodores returning Diego Pavia at quarterback, and he has the talent to pull off a crazy upset like this one, just putting the entire team on his back. However, we are going to go with LSU here. I wouldn't count Vandy out of any game this season, but realistically, they can't win them all, and we think that LSU will get the better of them on the road in this one.
LSU is just going to be the more talented team in this game, even though it is a road game for them. Diego Pavia can put the team on his back all he wants. I still think it's going to be too much to handle against this LSU defense. A&M is going to be an interesting game. Marcel Reed is back as the starting quarterback after taking over for Connor Wigman last season. I think he has a lot of potential to develop into a superstar in the SEC and in college football in general. I do think he's going to be outclassed by Garrett Nussmeier. I think he's already at an elite level, and in his senior season, he can elevate to an even higher level with the weapons he has around him. And I think if the defense can play to the level that they're capable of, this LSU team is going to do great things, and they're going to be able to get another win against a very good SEC team, move to 7-1, beating the Aggies.
Yeah, and LSU in a very good position heading into their second bye week. But after that, they have to go on the road to face Alabama. And we think that in year two under Kalen DeBoer, the Crimson Tide are going to improve. Despite losing Jalen Milroe to the NFL draft, Ty Simpson looking to take the reins at the starting quarterback position. Currently in a quarterback battle, but we project he will be the winner. I think Alabama is going to have a really good team in 2025. And with the home field advantage, this is going to be a really good game, but we're going to take the Crimson Tide here to pull off the win over LSU.
Yeah, I think Alabama was definitely you could argue a better team talent-wise last year. Jalen Milroe is probably better than whoever is going to be the starting quarterback for Alabama this year. Despite that, Alabama beat LSU on the road last year, 42 to 13. Just a flat out embarrassment. Now it's going to come to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Good night for the Tigers. Now you have Arkansas the following week, hoping to bounce back. Arkansas, a pretty young team, just raw athleticism, especially at the quarterback position with Taylon Green. Despite the upset potential, like we saw them beat Tennessee last year, I think Arkansas is just going to get outclassed in this one, especially with LSU coming off that loss to Alabama. They need to win out the rest of their games, so it's going to have to start with a win over Arkansas. And maybe that actually looks like a decent win if Arkansas is playing competitive throughout the rest of the season, but LSU should get the win.
Yeah, I think Arkansas, like you were saying, Taylor Green, solid quarterback. They have the potential to compete in every game. This one might be a little closer than some people are expecting. Maybe LSU starts off a little sluggish after dropping the game to Alabama. In the end, they should get the win and move to 8-2. Really, it's going to be 9-2 because there's no doubt they'll beat Western Kentucky the week after that. and their final matchup of the season, a road trip to Oklahoma. And we think the Sooners might be one of the most improved teams in 2025, bringing in one of the top quarterbacks out of the transfer portal in John Matier, as well as one of the top running backs in the transfer portal in Jaden Ott out of California. This is going to be a really good team. We saw Oklahoma pull off some big wins last season, such as the win over Alabama that knocked the Crimson Tide out of playoff contention. I think Oklahoma has the chance to do it again this season. And while it maybe isn't guaranteed to knock the Tigers out of playoff contention, we don't know what this playoff picture will look like yet. We are taking the Sooners to beat LSU to end the season.
It is definitely a bold take, but I really do think we're going to get some chaos in the SEC in the last few weeks of the season. Oklahoma will be pretty battle tested to this point. They have Michigan at home early on in the season. They have the Red River rivalry against Texas in the middle of the season, along with South Carolina, and they have Alabama the week after LSU plays them. They're going to be a tested team and a team that is built to compete with those top teams. And it really could go either way. If John Matier is going to play like every other Washington State quarterback that transfers to another school, Oklahoma's in for a great season. Jaden Knott was one of the reasons we were very high on Cal right after the 2024 season ended. So Oklahoma getting both those players, their offense just took a huge leap forward. They just need to hunker down on defense and they get a couple stops. Home field advantage is going to play a key part in this game as well. And that's ultimately why we're going to say that the Sooners are going to shock the world once again and beat the Tigers.
And like I was saying, it very well could knock LSU out of playoff contention, but we'll have to wait and see. So make sure to stay tuned with the rest of our prediction videos. Our way too early projection for LSU was 8-4. The prediction 9-3. Obviously, the prediction has stayed the same. The projection took a little bump up to 8.35 wins, 4.95, and 3.05 in the SEC. The floor for LSU this season going to be 7-5. There's definitely a way that a lot of things can go wrong with how tough this schedule is. A lot of these SEC teams are going to have low floors just because of how good a lot of their opponents are. The ceiling, though, going to be 10-2, just a little bit higher than what we predicted. Obviously, that Clemson game is going to be really tough, and I don't really see them getting out of SEC play unscathed. So 10-2, best case scenario for LSU in 2025. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.